Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we plunge into the heart of the information you've shared with us, your articles, your research, your notes, and distill it down to those truly essential nuggets of knowledge and insight. Our goal is to give you that shortcut to being genuinely well-informed with some surprising facts and hopefully a good dose of engaging conversation. Today, we're embarking on an exciting journey, really digging into the fiery heart of a legendary chapter from the sprawling, grimdark universe of Warhammer 40,000, the Salamanders. You sent us a fantastic stack of sources, particularly the Salamanders, Forging Fire and Faith, which honestly gave us an incredibly detailed look at their origins, their unique philosophy, their dramatic interactions with other factions, and even the distinctive role in the tabletop game itself.
Right. And our mission today is to truly unpack what makes the Salamanders stand out so distinctly among, well, all those mighty space marines. We're going to explore their deep-seated humanitarian ethos, which is pretty unusual, their unique combat style that relies heavily on fire, obviously, and how all that rich lore really translates into their presence in the vast Imperium. What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how they managed to combine this incredible martial prowess and, a fearsome reputation on the battlefield with an almost shockingly unexpected level of compassion. It's quite the paradox.
Yeah, it really is. So whether you're a grizzled veteran of the 41st millennium or maybe just curious about what makes these green-armored giants tick, get ready to ignite your understanding. And as always, if you find this deep dive valuable, please do share it with anyone else who loves gaining knowledge quickly, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our future explorations. Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning then. Who exactly are the Salamanders? Our sources immediately identify them as one of the first founding Loyalist Space Marine chapters, originally known as the X-8th Legion Astartes. Now, for someone maybe new to Warhammer 40,000, what does first founding actually signify? What's the weight behind that?
That's a crucial starting point, yeah. Being a first founding chapter means they trace their lineage directly back to the Emperor's original legions from the Great Crusade. The very first Space Marine forces created way back when. So the F8th Legion of Astartes, as they were originally known, makes them one of the oldest, most storied foundational military forces in the entire Imperium. This isn't just like historical trivia. It grants them immense prestige and really defines their very essence.
Gotcha. And their identity is, well, the sources say it's inextricably linked to their revered Primarch, Vulkan. This connection is highlighted as absolutely crucial. So again, for those who might not know, what exactly is a Primarch in this universe, and why is Vulkan so central to the Salamanders in particular?
Okay, so a Primarch is one of the Emperor's 20 superhuman sons. Think demigods in human form, basically. They are the genetic fathers, the strategists, the spiritual leaders of their respective Space Marine legions or chapters. So Vulkan isn't just some historical figure for the Salamanders. He's the direct source of their genetic makeup, their core values, their unique way of war. His personality, his beliefs, even his own sort of profound sense of compassion, it's all imprinted on every single Salamander. And their homeworld, Nocturne, this brutal, highly volcanic world, it isn't just a backdrop either. It's like a crucible that fundamentally shapes their resilience, their affinity for heat and fire, and their very being. It kind of mirrors Vulkan's own fiery endurance,
Now, here's where it gets really fascinating for me. Looking through the sources, they're known for their exceptional craftsmanship. We often think of Space Marines as just these brutal, unstoppable warriors, right? But the Salamanders are also skilled artisans capable of creating arms and armor that can rival the finest in the entire Imperium. How does that fit into their identity? And then visually, you can't miss them with their iconic bright green armor. But maybe most surprising, like you mentioned, they're often depicted as having this remarkably humanitarian nature, which, let's be honest, stands in stark contrast to the ruthless, often fanatical tendencies of other Astartes chapters.
You've absolutely hit on their most defining and, frankly, paradoxical characteristic there. The craftsmanship isn't just some side hobby. It's really an extension of their belief in perseverance and dedication. They forge their own weapons and armor with this personal touch, imbuing them with a level of care and, well, spiritual significance that few others can match. It speaks volumes about their patience and thoroughness. And this humanitarian aspect, this deep-seated compassion, it truly makes them an anomaly in the brutal, unforgiving universe of Warhammer 40,000. While other chapters might see civilians as, expendable collateral or even just obstacles, the Salamanders are committed to protecting human life, even at great personal cost. It really raises an important question. How does this profound compassion actually manifest in a chapter designed solely for war? And what does it mean for them to hold such values in a universe where hope is usually, well, pretty scarce?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Maybe in a galaxy where humanity is constantly under siege, their approach, prioritizing protection over pure aggression, maybe it's ultimately more sustainable, even if it's harder. This unique blend of artisan and protector naturally leads us to their guiding principle, the Promethean cult. So what exactly is this, and how does it influence them so profoundly?
Right. The sources emphasize that the Promethean cult is way more than just a spiritual belief system. It's a unique tradition deeply ingrained in their culture, like a philosophy that informs every single aspect of their existence. It emphasizes specific virtues: self-sacrifice, putting others before oneself, especially the innocent; mutual aid, supporting each other and those in need; and the purifying aspect of fire. So they see fire not just as destructive, but as something that cleanses, forges, and protects. This isn't just faith talk. It directly informs their combat doctrine, their interactions, their entire worldview. It's basically how they interpret their sacred duty within the Imperium.
So fire isn't just a tool or weapon for them, it's almost a spiritual force embodying their core tenets. Interesting. And it's important to note the sources really highlight that they do not worship the Emperor as a literal god, which actually distinguishes them from some other prominent chapters, like, say, the Black Templars, who definitely do, very zealously, in fact. What are the implications of that distinction? Does it cause friction?
Oh yeah, that distinction is absolutely key. It shows how even within the vast, sort of monolithic imperial faith, different chapters interpret their duties and beliefs in really nuanced ways. For the Salamanders, their devotion is to the Promethean cult and the ideals Vulkan taught them, rather than, like, a dogmatic, deified emperor. Now, this isn't a sign of heresy or anything, but it's definitely a different spiritual path within the broader imperial structure. And while it doesn't make them heretics, it can certainly put them at philosophical odds with chapters like the Black Templars, who are, as you said, fanatical in their worship of the emperor as the god emperor. Their Promethean cult truly acts as their moral compass, guiding their actions and their interactions with others, sometimes even with their own allies.
Okay, so given that deep commitment to protecting innocence, it's maybe no surprise that this occasionally puts them at odds with other chapters. Our sources highlight a particularly dramatic confrontation, for instance, with the famously zealous Black Templars during the defense of Hive Hell's Reach. Can you tell us more about that, the sheer tension and philosophical clash there?
Oh, this anecdote from the sources is absolutely crucial. It perfectly illustrates their humanitarian ethos in action, under extreme pressure. During the brutal defense of Hive Hell's Reach, Chaplain Grimaldus of the Black Templars, known for his unyielding zealotry and focused purely on, obliterating the enemy, became utterly infuriated with the Salamanders. The sources paint this vivid picture of sheer tension. Grimaldus basically saw every civilian as an impediment, something getting in the way of pure military victory. Yet the Salamanders defied him. They were deliberately prioritizing civilian defense and evacuation over directly engaging the enemy in a full-scale offensive. They wouldn't retaliate with the full destructive force Grimaldus wanted. This wasn't just some tactical disagreement. It was a fundamental clash of Space Marine philosophies. You had the Salamanders demonstrating this almost unheard-of moral courage against one of the Imperium's most dogmatic chapters.
Wow. And Grimaldus even famously told them to get out of my city because of this fundamental difference in tactical and moral priorities. That's a powerful, almost unheard of statement between allied Space Marine chapters. So what does this specific instance truly mean for understanding the Salamander's place in the larger grimdark narrative?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this interaction just perfectly underscores their unwavering commitment to protecting civilians. Even if it puts them at odds with allies or contradicts traditional Space Marine objectives, it's a powerful example of their compassion being a core, actionable principle, not just some theoretical ideal they talk about. It defines why they fight just as much as how they fight. They are, in a galaxy pretty starved of hope, a rare beacon of genuine altruism, you could say. And this distinct moral compass, as our sources suggest, often puts them in difficult positions, highlighting the profound philosophical divides that exist even within the Imperium's supposedly united front. They kind of remind us that even the mightiest warriors can choose to fight for salvation, not just conquest.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Moving from the rich lore to how they actually appear in the Warhammer 40,000 game itself. Our sources discuss their tabletop characteristics. They had their own codex supplement in 8th edition, but what about now? For our listeners who might be familiar with general wargaming but maybe not 40K specifics, what is a codex and what does it mean for them to be integrated?
That's a great question. Yeah, game mechanics can get a bit opaque sometimes. So a codex is essentially the rulebook and army list for a specific faction. It details all their units, special rules, how they operate on the tabletop. In 9th and 10th editions, the sources note that more standardized chapters like the Salamanders, alongside others like Ultramarines and White Scars, were integrated into the main Space Marines Codex. This is different from what they call non-Codex compliant chapters like the Dark Angels or Black Templars. Those guys still receive entirely separate supplements or even standalone codexes, which gives them more unique rules, generally.
So if they're integrated, does that mean players can still field a distinct Salamanders army? Or are they just sort of generic green Space Marines now? And what are their unique strengths and weaknesses on the battlefield that reflect all this lore we've been talking about?
Oh, absolutely. Players can and definitely do still field a fully distinct Salamanders army. The integration just means their core rules are in the main Space Marine book. But Games Workshop provides specific Warhammer 40,000 detachment choices that suit their unique playstyle. These detachments offer special rules that really reinforce their lore. For instance, notable characters like Chapter Master Vulkan, Hestand even have playable datasheets, letting players embody that specific heroic leadership on the table. It's actually fascinating how their lore translates pretty directly into gameplay. In terms of strengths, well, they are renowned as masters of flame-based weaponry and close combat. So on the tabletop, you'll often see them utilizing a lot of hammers, flamers, and melta guns. This means their firepower is absolutely devastating up close. They also possess enhanced durability for their infantry units, meaning they're tougher to kill than many other Space Marines, reflecting that resilience we talked about. They can field unique, potent units like the Fire Drakes, which are these elite Terminators embodying their craftsmanship and toughness. And their characters, mirroring their lore of honor and inspiring leadership, often offer strong and inspiring leadership abilities, giving buffs to nearby units.
Okay, so if I'm facing a Salamanders player, I know to keep my distance and get burned. But what are their weaknesses then? How does their playstyle sometimes become a challenge for players using them?
Exactly. That reliance on flamers and melta guns typically results in a shorter, effective ranged presence. They have to get very close to be truly effective. This can make them somewhat predictable for an opponent who understands their game plan, what they want to do. Also, being an elite army, their units and war gear often have higher points costs. This potentially limits the sheer number of models you can actually field compared to, say, a horde army. They also tend to have limited fast attack options compared to other chapters like White Scars or Raven Guard, making rapid flanking maneuvers less common for them. And for hobbyists out there, while their unique fire effects and intricate details look amazing, they can often require specialized painting techniques, adding another layer of challenge. So yeah, while they hit like a ton of bricks up close and are tough to take down, actually getting them into that position can be the real puzzle.
Right, makes sense. So they've got this incredibly rich lore, a distinct and challenging playstyle on the tabletop, and a strong, almost contradictory identity. What's next for the Salamanders, then, in the future of the game? Our sources hint at some exciting prospects for fans.
Yeah, the sources highlight that the Salamanders are already noted as the inspiration for a unique Space Marines detachment in 10th edition. That's a pretty clear indication of their continued influence on game design and their place in the strategic meta. It shows Games Workshop is actively thinking about how to represent their unique flavor within the current rule set.
And here's a big one that certainly got my attention from the sources. There's a strong prediction that Salamanders will be the next distinct, playable faction to be added by Games Workshop, with new rules and models hinted at by a teaser image. This image, reportedly from the 2025 Codex roadmap, shows a Gravis armored marine bearing their chapter badge and flame stylings. That sounds like a pretty significant development.
It truly is. If that happens, it would mean a return to having their own dedicated rules and potentially a full range of bespoke models, much like the Black Templars or Dark Angels currently enjoy. And this raises an important question for you, the listener. How might this potential evolution deepen their unique identity, both in the lore and on the tabletop? Will their humanitarian nature become even more pronounced in their new rules, or will the relentless, brutal demands of the grimdark galaxy inevitably push them to adapt in new, maybe even darker ways? It's a fascinating prospect, definitely something that could reshape their role in the Imperium.
Wow, what a deep dive into the Salamanders. We've seen how their origins on volcanic Nocturne, their profound reverence for Primarch Vulkan, and their unique Promethean cult have forged the chapter defined by both immense martial power and that surprising, almost paradoxical compassion. From their incredible artisan skills and bright green armor to their unwavering willingness to stand against even allies for the sake of civilians, they truly are a standout force in a morally gray universe.
Absolutely. They represent such a compelling intersection of brutal efficiency and this profound sense of duty to protect the innocent, a fascinating duality in the universe, often just devoid of hope. Their unique tabletop presence reflects these strengths and challenges, and yeah, their future prospects hint at even more exciting developments for players and lore enthusiasts alike.
And that brings us to our provocative thought for you to ponder. In a galaxy as unforgiving and just ceaselessly violent as Warhammer 40,000, can a faction truly maintain its core humanitarian values indefinitely? Or will the relentless tide of war inevitably force even the most compassionate to compromise their ideals, simply to survive? Something to maybe mull over as you reflect on the Salamanders. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. If you enjoyed uncovering these fascinating insights into one of Warhammer 40,000's most intriguing chapters, please remember to share this deep dive with your friends and colleagues. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next exploration into the depths of knowledge. Until next time, stay curious.